Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of doing an unboxing, we're going to be looking at my collection as it stands today. Specifically, the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stuff I have on display around my house. This is stuff ranging from part 1 all the way up into part 9, and it's things like figures, art, books, the manga, and other little knickknacks that I have. Let's start off with my main display cabinets. My partner and I share two large cabinets where we display scale figures from a variety of different TV shows, manga, video games, movies, and anything we're really interested in. As I said, today we will just be focusing on my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure collection, but if you see anything in the video that you're interested in, please leave a comment if you want to see more. Starting at the top, we have 4 big super action statues from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4. I've been lucky enough to get my hands on all 4 from the big super action statues collection for this part. So that includes Higashikata Josuke, Crazy Diamond, Yoshikage Kira, and Killer Queen. I have a rule with myself where I will only buy the bigs because there are fewer of them compared to the standard size. That rule might change though, as they've announced Slow Dancer and Valkyrie versions of the super action statues to go with the Johnny and Gyro, so I might have to break my rule just for them too. At this point, I do own all of the big super action statues Metacos has made, so those are the bigs from Part 3 and Part 4. They only have announced a Part 5 Giorno and Gold experience, with my hope being that they do eventually announce Diavolo and King Crimson. But as you can see from these figures so far, they are such high quality, with great attention to detail, great paint jobs, and are overall the most exciting JoJo's Bizarre Adventure action figures to collect. Let's now move down a shelf where we have the Part 3 big super action statues. If you've seen my previous video, you've seen these bigs before. You can go check that video out if you want to see the extra parts as well as some of the extra poses you can do with these figures. Initially when I started collecting these bigs, I was put off by the big metal arm. They're a little bit cumbersome to use and do require you to spend a good 10 to 15 minutes before putting the figure together, bending and stretching the metal so it's a little bit more malleable out of the box. I have found once you introduce this step into the assembly of the figures, it can make it a lot easier to find the poses that you're looking for. What's something you might notice about this Jotaro and the Star Platinum compared to the other bigs is the use of the claw arm instead of the metal going into the back of the figure. I am a little bit conflicted over which one I prefer. The claw style like on Jotaro here can give the figure a little bit of a cleaner look with it not having the hole in the back, but it is a lot harder to pose compared to the other style. We'll take a break here from looking at figures to look at some of the other things we have on this shelf. The first is the Polaroid taken of the Stardust Crusaders from Part 3. I was able to get this with my friend when we went to JoJo World, think back in Fukuoka in 2021. I tried to as much as possible find a frame similar to the one Jotaro had in Part 5, but I don't think I did a great job. Next is the Polaroid of Dio from Part 3. I got this off Mercari. I think it's from a JoJo event back in the early 2010s. I didn't personally go myself. Next up is a series of pins that show the distinct logos from each one of the parts. I'm not really sure what to call these specific logos or pins. These pins were sold for the Hirohiko Araki Ripples of Adventure museum tour that happened between 2018 and 2022. I think this was from either the Osaka or Tokyo one. I wasn't able to go to those, but I was able to go to the one in Kanazawa. On to the next shelf, we have a couple of figures from Part 6. Again, if you've seen the channel before, you would have seen these figures, both of them in the Made in Heaven figure unboxing. In that video I talk about how happy I was with the quality of both the Pucci and the Made in Heaven figure, and that still stands today. I think the Made in Heaven figure is one of the best looking figures that I own. I know that there was a little bit of controversy about the color of the special effects around Anasui's arm, but I don't really mind it. I think that when you see it in person, it looks really good, and the attention to detail is still just amazing. The last shelf of this cabinet has a variety of figures from different parts of JoJo. Starting on the left hand side, we have a couple of figures from Part 3. The first one here is Death 13. Death 13 isn't necessarily one of my favourite antagonists from JoJo's, but this figure is probably one of the most interesting ones Metacos has made. Next up is the Oingo and Boingo brothers. Again, these necessarily aren't my favourite antagonists, but the parts that they are in are really enjoyable. I think the interactions that both Oingo and Boingo have with the Crusaders and the greater cast of Part 3 are some of the funniest interactions in the whole show. Next up is the infamous Jolene figure. I've aired my grievances before about this figure in a previous video. I still stand by that it's not necessarily a bad figure. There was just a clear gap between the marketing and the figure that came out on release. This next figure, however, I was not disappointed with at all. This scary monster figure from part 7 is the only figure that I feel rivals the Made in Heaven figure from part 6. I feel like it's such a visually interesting figure, not only in the pose, but also in the paint and the special effects. I also lied before when I said that I didn't want any of the small super action statues. I would love the companion Dio Brando figure to go with this figure. That's all the JoJo figures from the large cabinet. Let's move on to this small display cabinet that I have in the corner next to the large one. Let's start at the top, where I have a special display for part 1. Both of the figures on this shelf are for Jonathan and Dio. This first one I got here is from Suruga-ya in Akihabara, but I believe it's originally from the special edition of the part 1 Blu-ray anime box set. This next figure here is the first one that isn't made by Medicos. It's actually made by a company called Sentinel. I've been able to buy all of the figures from this collection so far, and I've absolutely loved them. It's been great to see companies other than Medicos get a hands on the JoJo property and make figures that they find are interesting as well as high quality. What's interesting about these figures is the cogs on the ground connect all the other figures. So once they release more of these figures, you'll be able to create a grand interlocking system of figures that represents all of the different parts across JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So far they only have figures for Jonathan, Joseph and Jotaro, but they do have a pre-order up for Josuke, which I've put through on AmiAmi. I think the reason Sentinel can make these figures is because they're based off the anime and not the manga, so I'm guessing they're going to have to stop at about part 7. Either way, I'm still really excited and I hope to see them release more of these figures in the coming years. Moving on from the office, we're going to start looking at some of the bookcases I have around the house. This shelf here has a variety of different pieces of art, books, and comics from my collection. Along the top, we have some art that I've put in frames from a variety of different JoJo's Bizarre Adventure events. This includes the previously mentioned Kanazawa Ripples of Adventure event I went to, as well as the ones before it in Osaka and Tokyo. At the end here on the right, you can also see a high quality reproduction. These were sold exclusively as print to order at the Ripples of Adventure event. The next part of this bookshelf contains the art books and magazines that I've collected over the years. I don't think I'll bother to show you all of them, but I will show you a few highlights from this shelf. The first is the JoJo Vela art book. This is the last art book to be released by Hirohiko Araki and contains art from part 1 all the way up until part 8. I'd say if you're looking for an art book to contain all of the JoJo art that you love to see, this is probably the one to get. The next is JoJo A Go-Go, another art collection similar to JoJo Vela. Both of these art books don't contain just one book, they also contain 2 other books, one with information about stands, and the other with interview information about Hirohiko Araki. What's interesting about JoJo A Go-Go is, behind the cover there's a disc that you can spin to change some of the contextual information on the front cover. These changes, as you can see, are references to other parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and not just part 5. When I bought this book, I believe there was only the Japanese version, and since then they have released an English version of this book. As far as I'm aware though, the English version doesn't include this spinning sheath. It also doesn't include the interview book or the book about stands. I'd say if you're interested, you should probably get the Japanese version, as it is a much better overall experience compared to the English version. The next art book is JoJo's 6251. This was the first full JoJo's Bizarre Adventure art book to be released, and I believed it was released somewhere back in the 90s. As far as I'm aware, the significance of the 6251 is the number of pages that were in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at the release of this book. The next one is Hirohiko Araki Works, which contains not only all of the art from all of the previous JoJo art books, but as well as other works by Araki outside of JoJo. The most interesting thing about this book though is on the inside pages. As you can see, if you flip the book this way it says Ora Ora, and if you turn it the other way it says Muda Muda. The next art books are the ones specifically from the Ripples of Adventure event. The first one here is from the Tokyo event. I also have the one from the Osaka event, and of course the Kanazawa event. Unlike the other two, the Kanazawa one is special because it's shared between Kanazawa and the Nagasaki event. These books contain the art and the overall exhibitions you would have been able to see if you could attend the event. The next books we have here are actually not for the manga, they're for the anime. At the time of recording, there's only 2 anime art books. This one you see here, which is from part 1 up until part 3, and this one here, which is from part 4 up into part 6, with some of the pages at the end being for part 7. I've also been extremely lucky to get both of the Gucci one-shots Araki made back in the 2010s. The first one here is the one starring Jolene, and the second one is the one starring Kishibe Rohan. On top of the black and white replica I showed earlier, I also have the key art from the Kanazawa and Nagasaki event. These were both print to order, but could be ordered at either one of the events. The first one on the left here is the key art from the Kanazawa event, and the one on the right is the key art from the Nagasaki event. I find both of these pieces to be really interesting because they contain characters from all the different parts, ones that won't usually interact with each other. Below these paintings on another bookshelf, I have some more things. This includes a few copies of Ultra Jump I've collected throughout the years. All of the covers of these Ultra Jumps feature a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character, either in the mainline series or through a spin-off. I don't really collect these too much, I only get them if they contain a ticket to buy an item that I want, or I already have an order coming and it's easy to add it. The last thing on this shelf is the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 original soundtrack on vinyl. At the time of the recording, this is the only JoJo vinyl, but I would love to see them release the other parts on vinyl too. The next display cabinet I have is for me and my partner's Nendoroids. This is the only figure series that both me and my partner collect, and it's something that we both really enjoy getting. Again, just for this video we will only be looking at the JoJo figures, but if you're interested in seeing any of the other figures in the cabinet, please leave a comment down below and maybe I can make a short video about it. These are all the JoJo Nendoroids here. I do have almost all of the Nendoroids. The only ones I don't have are the Part 5 antagonists, Risotto Nero and Prosciutto. I'm not really interested in buying those figures, I'm quite happy with the collection I have now. But I did see they have announced some Part 7 figures, and I will definitely be getting those ones. Another reason I don't collect the standard Super Action statues is because I already collect the Nendoroids. I think they're quite similar and serve a similar purpose, so only collecting one saves me money. What's interesting about the Nendoroids is the clear absence of some characters from each of the parts. Take Part 4 for example. There's only a Josuke, Kira, and Rohan figure. There are no Koichi or Okuyasu figures, which I feel like is a clear oversight. In saying that, I hope they release more characters from more parts in the future, and my collection can continue to grow. To the right of this display cabinet are 3 posters that I've had framed and put up on the wall. The first on the left is the Hirohiko Araki Paralympics poster that he created for the 2020 Paralympics. In the middle is a poster of one of the manga covers for Part 4, which is actually one of my favourite pieces of JoJo art there is. And lastly on the right is another piece that contains all of the JoJo's from Part 1 all the way up to Part 8. These aren't all of the JoJo posters that I own. I have another 20 to 25 in storage that I don't have enough room for to put up, but when I move I'm hoping to put more up and be able to show more art in my house. The last thing we'll be looking at today is my manga bookshelf. This bookshelf contains all of the manga from Part 1 up into Part 9, as well as all of the spin-offs. I would consider this manga to be my prized collection when it comes to JoJo. You can't see it here, but all of the volumes from 1 up into 60 are actually original print and the first edition of each of the manga volumes. Maybe in another video, I can show you all of the dates in the back of the book to show you the original printing. But yes, even the first and second volumes are original printing from 1987, and that goes all the way up until the end of Part 6. Part 7 and Part 8, I have a couple of first printings, but most of them are second, third, fourth, or even greater than that. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed getting an extensive look at my overall JoJo displays, but just a peek into my overall collection. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. And if there's anything in the video you want to see more of, again, please let me know and maybe I can make a YouTube short or a follow-up video where I go more extensively into my collection. I'm thinking of doing some more different kinds of videos, maybe looking at my figure collection pre-orders, or maybe not even anime figures at all. Please let me know if there's anything you'd be interested in. Thank you.